I'm having a case in the Mondays, pressing the wrong buttons. All right, no announcements today other than make sure that you are looking at your assignment number 2, getting that working, making sure that you're covering any concepts, because today we're going to be learning concepts to start you out with assignment number 3. Though you don't have to worry about it just yet. It's the beginning of that stuff. Just keep note of that. You have all of the know-how you need to complete assignment number 2. All right, any questions before? Oh yeah, I do technically have an assignment today, or an announcement today. Wow, should have made coffee. We do not have lecture on Monday. As we talked about with Greg, Monday we do not have lecture. We do have small groups. It's a catch-up day to get that number 2 assignment across the line. So no lecture Monday. Sorry, you don't get to see me. Go right to your small groups. All right, besides that.
Thursday? Do you mean Thursday, Cal?
I really hope I mean Monday, because I have been told, I swear it was Monday. I'm going to double, triple check, because I thought it was Monday, and I absolutely could be having a way worse case in the Mondays than I thought it was. Let me go ahead and take a look.
On the calendar, I believe it's this Thursday. We have a catch-up day.
I need to update my calendar, because I have my own set of calendars, but I updated at the very beginning of the unit, and I know things moved around, like I said last lecture, so I apologize. You all are probably correct. I just like to double check.
Yeah, it's saying Thursday on the dashboard.
Okay, then never mind. You do get to see this smiling face on a Monday. Sorry, Thursday it is. Thursday is our catch-up day, so Monday do come to lecture. All right, awesome, awesome. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we hop into it? Anything at all? Anything? All right, let's get started then. As always, help me out here. We're going to create a dog. Yes, the dog, as always. How do we start creating the dog class?
Welcome to public class dog.
There we go. We do public class dog. Let me get to my correct screen here. There we go. And then I need that up there. Perfect, perfect. Yes, it is. How do we, or yes, we do public class dog. After that, how do we go about adding a name to our dog? What are we going to do? Got to talk me through it. I know it might be a no-brainer. It might be try it, take a stab at it. How do we create a name for our dog in this dog class?
You can go this.name.
We can do this.name after we do something. After we do something.
Private string name.
Private string name. Very good. Because what is name in this regard?
Variable. String.
Property.
String.
A property. Also, we refer to them a lot as class variables too. Class variables are properties. Class variables or properties are always private. Always private. Also, you cannot use the accessor this until you create that class variable or property. So though you are correct, we can access it that way, we have to create it first. All right, let's go on and keep going. How will we build the constructor for our dog class? What are we going to do?
Public dog.
Public dog, awesome, awesome. And we have a class variable up there we're going to want to set with our constructor. So what are we going to put in there? Parentheses, what?
String name.
Very good. And then how do we set class variables? What's that keyword? Jason, what's that keyword? Very good. Or anybody. Absolutely, absolutely. Very good. It is this.name equals name. This is how we create the constructor for our classes. Remember, in our class structure, it goes class variables or properties, and then constructors. The next thing we would do is, who knows the third thing?
Methods.
Methods. Very good. So speaking of that, how do we create a toString method? How do we start that out?
Override.
Override.
Very good. Yes, the @override annotation. Fantastic. So just for naming that annotation first, I'm going to go ahead and write that function for a method for you. And then right here, we just say public string, toString, the exact name of it. And then whatever we want to customize it to, just like you said, adding that annotation @override with a capital O. This truly creates our toString method for our dog class. Now looking at this, any questions about our class before we move on? You guys are gonna be sick of dogs by the end of this. I can already tell. All right.
Would
Oh,
we,
yeah, Andrew.
I'm sorry. Would we potentially maybe put final for the dog's name, since it's probably not going to change?
Technically, yes, you could put final, so it doesn't change afterwards. So yeah, you absolutely could do that. And also you won't assign it to anything because we're gonna assign in the constructor. So yeah, we could absolutely put final there. Very good call out. Awesome, awesome. All right, who's ready to visit an old friend? Yeah, digging them up from the grave. Let's see it. Tell me this, how do I start building a web page?
HTML5?
Not well, that is the language we're going to be building our website in. I like that. But what do we start with?
Doc type.
Technically, doc type. I will give you that. I am lazy. I never add that, but I absolutely agree with you. What's after the doc type?
It is.
Your HTML tag.
HTML tag.
HTML tag. Very good. Yeah, we do open pointy bracket, HTML, close pointy bracket. And this tag has a partner at the very bottom. So /HTML. That's how we start our web pages. Always, always, always. And also put that doc type at the top too, if you'd like to add that. What tags indicate of the start of the things that we see? What tags do we use to show something to the user?
Header and body?
Header and body.
Header and body are the two tags that can go in HTML. I absolutely agree with you. To see something, we use the body tags. For the head, we can't see anything inside of our heads. It's our personality. It's our brain moving around. Just like HTML pages, in the head is where all of like the meta tags go. Anything that the user doesn't see but has the characteristics for our website, that goes in the header, or the head, excuse me, the head tags. Well, everything we see visually on the HTML page is in the body tags. So body is what we are looking for necessarily, but you're absolutely correct. Head could also be inside of the HTML tags. Moving on a little bit further, how do we create a text with a size of H3? Where would we put it and what would we use?
Open bracket H3.
H3. Put it on the body.
Very
Right.
good.
Close angle bracket.
Who can tell me what H3 stands for? A little extra credit there.
Header.
Yeah, it's our header sizes. So it's usually used as a header. So very good. Yeah, H3 is right in the middle. It goes 1 to 6. H3 is right there. And we're going to say my dog HTML just for fun. Let's get a little bit more into it. How about creating a text box? What tag are we going to start using for that one?
P
tag.
paragraph P.
We're looking at a text box here, not just text. Text box is a specific type of tag.
Input.
Input, very good. Input, that's the tag we're going to use because it's something that our user interacts with. That's why we're going to use input. But we need to add a little bit more specificity, what would be the word, to this tag? We add a specific attribute. Keep talking me through it.
href?
Not href. That href means a link to something. So if we put an href, we're saying we're going to do a link
Type.
somewhere. Very good. Type, and I like that. Keep going. What kind of type are we going to put in here for a text box?
Text box?
Close, but I'll give it to you. It is
Text.
input type text. So type equals text. That's how we transform this input into a text box. Don't forget, input tags can also be transformed into buttons, radio buttons, checkboxes, and an array of other things. So we have to tell HTML what this input is actually going to be. And then one more thing we always need to add to our input tags to make sure we're understanding which one is which is the name. So in this case, we're going to say name my dog's name. We can also include ID in here too if we want to be very, very specific as well. Finally, talk me through this one. What if we wanted to create a submit button?
Input type equals submit.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, input again, because it's a different kind of input. Type equals submit. And then we want to name our submit. If we don't add this next attribute, the default is just submit. So to change the text of our submit button, we include value equals, and then whatever we want our submit button to actually say. So there we go. That's HTML. Everybody remember that fun stuff? I hope so. We just created a form right there just for a second. All right, any questions about the HTML stuff or the Java stuff that we covered before class or before previously in the last slide? Anything at all? Nope. Oh, I see one, possibly. Excuse me. Alrighty. So I'm not seeing any technical questions, so we are going to go ahead and move forward here. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, everyone, let's dive a little bit deeper into just everything that we're going to be getting into. You as developers or up-and-coming developers, we're going to talk about the magic of the internet today. We've kind of gone over this before, but really want to reminisce in what we talked about in the last unit and build upon it. So as you all are looking at me right now, or hopefully looking at me, you are staring at me on a desktop screen, some kind of screen, a laptop screen, any whatever. On these devices that we are currently on, we do a lot of things. One of the things that we typically do sometimes is look up the weather. Now this seems very arbitrary. Typically we'll open up a web page, we'll type in weather, weather.com, anything you want to do. And what that does, whenever you actually type in that information on your computer or on that browser, it is going to talk to somebody that is not on your computer. Unfortunately, our devices don't have all the information of the world directly on them. They're saved elsewhere out in the world. So what happens when you look up the weather is that your browser communicates with something exterior, some data source way out in the way. And what that does is that when we ask for the weather, it sends out a request to that thing way out there. It says, hey, can you get me the weather from whatever weather.com? This get is the request. It's a GET request to gather information and send it back to you, back to your browser so you can see it. When it's sent back to you on your screen, this is called a response. You might remember this from our first unit, or those requests and those responses, sometimes that we did during fetching at the very end of our unit 1. But what I really want to build upon today, because we already talked about how we send things over, sending those requests, I want to focus on more on the back end. Let's focus on what this guy does, the exterior portion where all of our data lives. In this regard, what this is called is a controller. A controller is what we're going to be talking about today. It is the master of requests and responses. It is the one that sends out or takes in those requests and sends out responses. We haven't ever met this portion of the internet yet. We've only sent out requests and accepted responses. Now we're learning the other side. So that's what a controller is, and that's what we're going to refer to a controller as from now on. Moving on, we're going to talk about models. You've already seen models as well. Models can also be referred to as those classes or the structure of information. Public class dog, the thing that you just built a few slides ago, can technically be a model. It's a way of how we can structure our information. So this can be the data and also the logic behind anything that a request comes in for, whether it be that weather, whether it be to do 2 + 2, anything like that can be inside of those models. And then finally, one more thing that we need to talk about, the view. What exactly is a view? You've already done that to you today. View is what we see, the HTML, the information that is conjured up by the models through the controller is produced into a view. So we can actually see something. We can actually see results from our responses. So this is exactly what the user sees. Welcome to MVC. It's the Model View Controller Architecture. Andrew, I just got a question from Andrew saying, do APIs talk to the controllers? Technically, you can talk to APIs through your controllers, but you can also think of this MVC architecture as an API itself. Though it's not an external API, you're kind of making it on your own computer, so it's more internal. It's an API in a sense and on itself. It's a way to talk to other information sources. But yes, to answer your question, APIs can talk to controllers and vice versa technically. All right, so this is what we're looking at right here, MVCs. Let's talk about exactly what the flow goes through. The controller, whenever it gets a request, the request comes on, and whatever that information comes in from the request has to be modeled, has to be sculpted into something that we can actually use. Hence where models come in. That information that comes in, that could be just an array of static or binary or just like a bunch of ugly JSON, has to be transformed to something that we want to work with. Hence why it is put into a model. It's put into a specific structure that we want to work with. Once it's in that structure, what it does is it passes through the controller once again. Because we modeled it, we've done our architecture, we've done our logic, now we're ready to send back our response to the user who sent the request. Controller is the master of the responses and the requests, so we send it back through the controller and we form a view. From that view is formed from whatever data that we have, whether it's just a data payload or if it's actually an HTML website. So then we send back that pretty looking response to the controller, and the controller is like, cool, looks great, let's send it back to the user. Let's send a response back to that computer. This is how the MVC architecture works. It all starts and ends with the controller. We take in information through the controller, we make it pretty using models, we send it over to the view to make it look pretty for the user, then we send it back to the controller to send it out as a response. So this is the architecture of MVC, and what the technology we use to piece this all together within Java is called Spring. Spring. We will be using the Spring technology to do this inside of Java. I'm saying MVC. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm slightly still snotted up here. MVC, Model View Controller. That is absolutely correct. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and open it up for any kind of questions that we have. Anybody has any about just a quick introduction of MVC? Anything at all?
I got a
All right.
question.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, what's
sorry.
going on? No, please go ahead.
Is Spring the only thing that can handle this kind of process?
I'm drawing a blank on what other technologies are out there, but no, this is not the only technology out there that allows MVC architecture. I'm sure there's other frameworks that you can utilize. The one we're just gonna be learning, and it also is more popular, is Spring, just because it works with a lot of other technologies that we're gonna be using. Does that help out with your question?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay, so to answer very, very blatantly, yeah, Spring is not the only one. There are other technologies. Spring is just the most popular. That's why we use it. And why did you go away? There, come back. All right, Andrew, your question. So Spring is like a framework for backend, like Angular is for front end, or similar. It is not like Angular. Spring is to create web applications utilizing HTML and Java, while Angular is to create front-end applications only using JavaScript and TypeScript. So they have their differences. Basically, Angular touches only primarily on the UI on the front end. Well, this is what we're learning will encompass everything from the front end to the back end to the API layer in the middle. So think of the architecture we're learning today with Spring to be more encompassing than Angular. I'm excited too. All right. Yeah, you can think of it as the easy button. I mean, not necessarily, it's not extremely easy, but it is an all-inclusive architecture, so we have to use less things here and there. All right. I see one more question here getting typed, and then very true. It is much easier than writing servlets in the old way. I remember the days of JSP back in my Java days. It was not fun. Whew. All right. If anybody wants to know what JSP is, it's basically like when PHP wasn't good enough, so Java created its own type that never took off, and it's absolutely terrible. All right, getting up and running. Let's talk about controlling the flow here. So we already brought in the controller. We already talked about it. It's the master of those requests and responses. So whenever a request comes in, say it's from anywhere, this get localhost 8080 dog, which we'll talk about a lot in a few moments. This right here is the path. that is exactly how we're going to be talking to our controller. And what we're going to be doing is we need to be able to talk to it through a certain thing. And I'm realizing that I need to take a few steps here before we move to these next slides so we can get on the same page with some of the technologies we're going to be using. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here. I am going to open up, let me see where my Google Chrome is. That's what I need to do. If you want to follow along, feel free. I'm going to try to go slow enough so everyone can copy my steps. But if not, as always, these recordings are online afterwards. What I'm going to do, and you've probably already seen this from your reading, start.spring.io. I'm going to go here, and this is where we're going to use to generate an application that has Spring inside of it. Once we're here, what we need to do is select Gradle Project. Make sure Java is selected. You can select the latest non-snapshot version, which in this one is 2.6. And down here is where we're going to create our actual application. In this, I'm going to put org.launchcode, how they always want us to do it. You don't have to do that, but it's the best because you're in launch code right now, and so am I. So I'm just going to give launch code that little name there, and the artifact, what I'm going to call it, or just the name here, is going to be my pet store. We're going to be building upon this as we move through our lectures here in the next few coming classes. Description, demo, project, for class. There we go. We're going to make sure that's still jar, and I'm going to select 17 here. Kevin, even if you select 2.5.5, you're absolutely fine. It's not going to be that big of a deal. Don't worry about it too much. The issues only come in with really the Java version, and we'll see that in a moment. All right, now that we're done there, what I'm going to go ahead and do is move that thing and then press generate. What's going to happen is that it's going to create a zip file there, as you already just saw. I'm going to put that there. Oh, of course. Let's see if I can do this. All right. So once that zip folder is there, what we're going to do is come over here to my stuff right there. There we go. I wanted, I need to do this so you guys can actually see it. So what I did is I put petstore.zip. I downloaded this to my browser. I'm going to double click. I'm on a Mac. For Windows, you typically have to extract. I had to think of the word there. And once you do that, once you extract, you should see another folder be created. I see pet store here. Once we're done there, what we have to do now is open it up in IntelliJ. So I'm going to go ahead and open up IntelliJ here. Open. I know you can't see it just because I have another IntelliJ instance right on my top screen, so I apologize there. But you have opened up files before in IntelliJ. All you do is press open, new window. There we go. All right, so now we have created our project here. This is a Gradle project. Gradle is kind of like NPM in the sense where it's going to bring in dependencies, libraries that we need in order to run a web application in Java or on Spring. So that's why it's called a Gradle project. What that's going to do then is that it's going to build your Gradle project, meaning it's going to bring in those dependencies that you just said that you needed, and then try to get you started. Unfortunately, we're going to have to add a few extra dependencies to our stuff so we can actually use it. So we're going to let it build here for a second. Hopefully it hurries up. Does anyone have any questions about if they are trying to keep with us right now about this process? No? Okay. First things first, I want, if you are following along too, feel free to go to build.gradle. In here is all the specs that we have for our Gradle project. The first one I really want to show you is this source compatibility. What this means is that this is your Java source, meaning what Java are you on? I am not on 17. I'm an old soul with 14. So I'm going to change 17 to 14. If I kept it 17, it wouldn't actually run. So I need to keep it 14. You'll get an error if you don't change your source compatibility properly. The next thing I'm going to do is that I will show you what I'm copying here.
Okay, I do have a question.
Yeah, what's going on?
So in the book it says use 11. So are we supposed to hit 17 where we're generating the files and then switch it over just like how you did?
Either way, honestly, if the book says 11, just go with the book.
From
Either way is fine.
from spring, we just go ahead and hit 11 on spring.
Yeah, go ahead and just hit 11 on spring. Just keep it more consistent. If you hit 11 and then you can change it to 14 or whatever version you're on later.
Okay.
11 is safer though, and I apologize. 11 is probably a little bit safer because it will still work regardless. But I do 17, so it reminds me. So yeah, absolutely. Either way, but go with 11 if you'd like.
All right.
Awesome. All right, the next thing I'm gonna do is that once I update my source compatibility, I wanna update my dependencies. If you go to 9.2, initialize spring section, they give you a list of these dependencies. Copy those dependencies, come over here and replace it inside of your build Gradle. Just like that. Once you do this, if you are not paying attention to right now, please pay attention to the next few seconds. If you update your dependencies, please go over and click this cute little dinosaur and this little refresh icon. If you do not do that, it will not rebuild your Gradle. Therefore, your project will not work. I cannot count how many times that I've helped people over just 2 units with that exact question. So please make sure, and I'm A-okay with answering it again, but please, if you update your Gradle dependencies, which you will from this class onward, click that refresh. If you don't see that little icon pop up, you can also click on the Gradle on the top right of your IntelliJ and click the refresh button here. Both will rebuild your Gradle. This is an extremely important thing to do. When you see that your project is not working, try this first. Because when it is that Saturday or Sunday and your assignment 3 and 4 are due and you are nearly in tears because nothing is building, please try to click that refresh button and have a better Saturday or Sunday. All right, now that I have intensified that, that is all we have to do for our Gradle here. So what I'm gonna do to run our Gradle project now is click Gradle and go into tasks, go into application and double click boot run. Do not try to boot it from your main. You must go to boot run so we can actually start up our Gradle project properly. We'll let it have a second here to update. It's going to take at least a second or two to get started, depending on your computer. It can take up to like a half a minute sometimes. It can be a pain. And once we're done with that, what we need to do is go to a thing called localhost, which we've already talked about. You know what localhost is. But the port we're going to be working with on this one is 8080. We press enter here, and we're going to get an error page. That's because we haven't set anything up yet in our application. We'll do that next. But that's how we get our Gradle project going. Any questions about what we just covered here? Graham, I see that where did I copy the dependencies from? That is in 9.2 of your reading. It should be about halfway to a quarter or 3/4 of the way down. Katie, where is boot run? That is underneath Gradle, tasks, application, and then boot run. Click Gradle in the top right of your IntelliJ. Great questions. Any other questions before we move on?
How do you save it, like save it to a specific folder? Because when I'm saving that thing from Spring initializer, it just saves somewhere in my computer, and for some reason I cannot access it.
So are you on a Windows or are you on a Mac?
Mac.
Okay, if you're on a Mac, it should go directly to your downloads folder.
Let me check.
When it's in your downloads folder, move it to the desktop. It's easier to work with there, depending on what your desktop looks like. Once it's on your desktop, double click the .zip file.
Oh, there we go.
That will create a separate folder. And then you'll want to open that separate folder.
So once we double click it on Mac, it'll automatically generate that folder for us?
Yes.
Okay.
At least it should. Take that with a grain of salt. You never know. Technology always likes to.
Do we have to put the zip file into the folder, or it's just a preference?
No, I don't even put the zip file in there. Honestly, once it creates that separate folder, you can delete the zip.
Okay.
Great questions. Anything else? Because I know that this can be a little bit complicated where you're learning this new stuff, but we're going to be working with it for quite some time. Anything else? All right. All right. I hope some people are following along with me. This is going to be fun. Okay. We are there. We are creating this web page. We are on our local host 8080, but we are not showing anything. Let's learn how we can actually build upon our stuff to actually show things to our users. Let me go ahead and find my, there we go. There we go. I don't know what's going on with my, what's up with you today? There we go. All right. Let's bring it back here to MVC. We already talked about the controller here, the master of those requests and responses. That is what we're trying to set up here. But if we don't have a controller, we have no one working with our requests or responses, there's no way we can actually show websites. That's why we're getting this blank weird error here, this white label error page. It's saying that we don't have anything to accept any of these requests. The request being this localhost 8080. So let's figure out what we can do to actually get this going. The thing is that when those requests are sent over, we need that controller to actually be created. In this instance, we already done localhost 8080, but the example I'm giving here is localhost 8080/dog. This path is what we're going to create a controller for. But the question is, how do we create a controller? Let's dive into that. First things first, controllers, just like everything in Java, is a class. Minus interfaces. If anyone's mind went like, what interfaces are classes? Gold star for you. We need to create a dog controller class. It is a class, it is public. And one thing specifically that we need to do special to this class is add one of those decorative annotations to it. This annotation being the @controller annotation. What @controller does is tells Spring inside of Java when it's compiling that this thing is a controller. It's going to have things in there that can manage requests for us. So let's dive a little bit deeper in how we can actually get this thing to manage some requests. Take a close look at our path that we have in our example. Localhost 8080/dog. This is a specific route. The specifics being that we have /dog in here. If we want to do this, if we want to do /dog, we have to create a controller just for that. Okay, we have to map to this dog. In our controllers, how we do that is we use another annotation. We're sending a get request over for this /dog route. Hence, we need to create a get mapping for that dog, for /dog. So this is how we do that. @get mapping for dog. This is going to help us return any responses for any requests for /dog that are get requests. One more thing we need to add, we can add multiple annotations on one method. The next one we're going to be doing is the @response body. This is telling us, or telling Spring, that we want to just return some text from this back to our user's browser. In that case, I'm just going to create an arbitrary public method to do this. Public string bark return bark. Now take a close look at this. Again, it's public. It's public, it's public, it's public. It has a return type of string. Has a return type of string. We can call it whatever we want. In this case, it's just bark and then return bark. Let's go ahead and hop over now back to IntelliJ and create this actually in our application. We're going to create that dog controller. I'm going to rearrange my windows here too. Okay.
Kyle, where did you go make those changes? I'm kind of lost.
Which changes?
The settings the ones you change for dependencies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can try to answer those questions as much as I can. It's the build.gradle is that you want to go to.
Okay.
So inside of our main, we're going to create that dog controller class. Now we have to create this in a very specific area. So we have Java. So inside of our main, we have Java and then org.launchcode.petstore. And then in here is where I'm going to create my controllers. To do that, I want to go ahead and create a package to contain all of those, just to keep things organized. So I said petstore.controller, just like that. Now I did the package thing for us, but you guys are going to help me through this class. I'm not going to do it alone. I'm talking way too much today. We're going to actually, you know what? I'll do one more thing for you because I'm a nice person. I'm going to call it the dog controller. Make sure that you name all of your controllers with controller in the name so we can keep them straight. There we go. I created a public class dog controller for us. Now, what's the first step that we need to do to turn this actually into a controller? What do we need to add?
@controller.
@controller.
Very good. That annotation at the very very top. Gosh. Awesome, awesome. And now what we want to do is create a get for/dog. To do that, what's the first annotation we needed to create?
Get mapping.
Very good, that get mapping. And in here is where we actually place the route /dog, or we can place quotes dog. Now we just want to return string, just text from this get mapping back to our browser. So what was that second annotation that we used?
At response body.
Very good, at response body. Awesome, and now what is our accessor always for these kinds of methods?
Public.
Awesome. Do we have
String.
return types? String, very good. And then just an arbitrary name. We said bark for this one. In this case, I said return bark. There we go. All right, we just created our first get mapping. Congratulations. Awesome, awesome. Let's see if it works. To do that with our Gradles, we have to stop our Gradle and then restart it. Stop it and then restart it. Unfortunately, it's not like Angular where it just updates automatically for us. We have to stop the server, start it back up. That's what takes the most time, unfortunately. Oh, I don't have my stuff up. There we go. Lucy, I saw, is it common to have several controllers? I'm sure someone's already applied to you, but it is absolutely common, and we'll see that more and more as we move forward. All right, we have our get created. So if I press enter here, I still get that error page. That's fine because I haven't created any get for just my localhost 8080, my home directory. So I'm gonna say /dog here. Once I do /dog, I see that I get back my text response bark. There we go. I sent a get request of localhost 8080/dog to that dog controller. The dog controller is like, okay, you want to use /dog? Let me see if I have that in my records. It does. It has it right here under this get mapping. So it's like, okay, I will run this method. Public string bark. You want me to return bark? Fantastic. That's exactly what I'll do. It returns bark, and that's what we see on our screen here. This is the beginning and a very, very quick introduction to what get mappings are inside of controllers and what they can do for us. So any questions about this?
Can you go back to the IntelliJ? Thank you.
Absolutely. I see one person typing, so I'll give it a moment.
Do you not need semis after your get mapping and response body?
We have never needed annotate. We do not need annotations, we do not need semicolons after annotations. So no semicolons after either of these. If you're unable to import your get mapping, make sure that you have rebuilt your Gradle and also included those dependencies.
So for some reason I can't locate Gradle, build that Gradle. I'm not sure if I downloaded it correctly.
So build.gradle should be right below the .getIgnore. If you don't see build.gradle in there, make sure that when you were creating your Spring Boot application that you selected a Gradle project.
Oh, I didn't. That's the problem.
No problem, no problem. Brandon, I believe so. I think you're right. I follow the directions as close as I can, so I have not installed those, but I'm sure if it's refreshing, then I'm sure you don't have to start and stop, or stop and start.
Hey, Kyle.
Yes, Zoo.
How come your dog isn't like capitalized, like the class would be capitalized?
Are we talking about this dog here? That's because it is the string version. So it's what the user will type inside of the URL, which will typically be lowercase. So this is just an arbitrary thing. We also don't need to do dog here also. We can say cookie or whatever we want to do. And then in here, of course, I'd have to start and stop again, but it's really just an arbitrary string to map that route to something in our controller.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, for clarification, and I know that might be confusing too, that route does not need to be the same name as the class. I did want to do a strong call out to that. So now I changed that mapping. So if I press enter here, oh, it's still loading. There we go. It will say, oh no, I can't find that route. But if I change it to cookie, now it can bark. So now my cookie can bark. Fantastic. All right. I believe that we have exhausted that one. So let's keep moving forward here. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to throw them in that lecture questions channel. All right. As we already know, once we press enter to this path and we have that get mapping created, we send that response of bark. Remember, that controller is doing all of that for us. It's taking in the request, that get request, seeing exactly what mapping method to run, and sending back that string, that response back to us. This is how the internet works. We talk on the UI over to something, usually a controller or some kind of API, and it sends us back that response. So there we go. Welcome to the internet. Isn't it a beautiful thing? Let's keep going a little bit further now. Controlling the flow continued. Let's talk about this localhost 8080 dog/stark. Now take a look at this one. This path gets a little bit more complex. We added this /stark to it. How exactly do we do something like this? Well, just like before, we still have our dog controller with that annotation at the very top, @controller. And now what we're gonna do is that stark is a very specific dog name. Is every dog, even though I wish, every dog named Stark? No. Every dog has its own individual name. So Stark, we don't want to create a route for Stark, then Bella, then Toby, then every million other dog names out there just to take in each dog. What we want to do is more customize our methods to take in these more customized routes. So let's go ahead and talk about how to do this exactly. We're going to create another get mapping here, but we're going to do something very, very specific. We see in here, we see dog/curly bracket name in there, and then response body as we were doing before. Now this curly bracket name is very, very special. It's a type of way to pass information in through these routes. So when we pass information through a route or through a method, we always have to have something there to capture it. Typically, it's in the form of a parameter. Hence why we're going to be putting into the parameters of our method. Public string bark, we've already seen this before, but we added something new. We added a path variable. That's what that name is. So what you see here is the path variable placed into the parameters. Something I do want to call out is that name has to be, the parameter name has to be the exact same as what's in the curly brackets within your get mapping path there. These names are exactly alike. They need to be exactly alike. Otherwise, we can't make that one-to-one connection. So let's go ahead and see this in action. We're going to update this a little bit. I'm going to change this back to dog. I'm sorry. Now tell me this. How do I include a path variable? What am I going to put here?
Curly brace name.
Curly bracket.
Very good. Name, curly bracket, or whatever we want our path variable name to be. It doesn't have to be name. It can be whatever. You're absolutely right. Inside of those curly brackets. Now the fun one. What do I need to put in here? What's the first thing?
Path variable.
Very good. Path variable. Just like that. String. And then what's next?
Name.
Very good. Typically, your path variables will be strings. Sometimes they can be integers, but most likely they're going to be strings. We will see a few examples with int in there. All right. What I want to...
Quick question for you. Is this something like a temporal literal?
No, more like I can see where you're possibly drawing that from, but no, it's not going to be like a temporal literal. Instead, this is where we can insert customized data into and then pass it down to our parameters. So think of it as more of a way to pass information to our parameters from a path. So we're able to call those methods with data from our path using those curly brackets.
Oh, okay. So basically, it does so much more than what a temporal literal would actually do.
Well, it won't have any kind of indication, or it won't have any kind of similarity to a temporal literal. Temporal literals are a way to build strings, and pass information into strings to build them. In a way, this is a way to pass information into a URL to build that and send over information. So I guess if you want to make that kind of connection with a string literal, you can kind of see it, but don't think they have too much similarity together. They are very different things.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I did here also, me too. I just wanted to show you that we can create multiple get mappings here. So what I did is I just copied this and take out this here. We're going to keep exactly how we there. So we had our bark here. I'm going to say bark with name. Yeah. Just like that. So now we created a second get mapping with that dog / curly brackets name there. So what I'm going to do here is create a temporal literal. So I'm going to put those little ticks there. Oh, I can't. What am I thinking? Java. Oh my gosh. Kyle, you're not in Java. You wish. Name. I'm going to say name barked. So what it's going to say is that whatever this dog's name is, barked. Wow, isn't that crazy? So we have bark with name. We're going to pass in that name through the path variable and create this customized string. Let's go ahead and see this in action. So what I'm going to do is stop my Gradle, refresh it, and there we go. Any questions up until this point as our Gradle is building? All right. Question time's over because it's all built. Let's go over here. We're going to go ahead and go to dog here. Just make sure it still works. Our dog is still barking. Fantastic. Someone give me a dog name. Who wants to bark?
Start.
Regis.
Oh, get some energy behind there. Oh my gosh. Like, oh, I don't know. Whatever dog name. Kyle, just teach. Jeez. Stop making me talk. Stark barked. Yes. Be happy. Get that energy out here, everyone. Put a smile on. Come on, get in here. Let's do this. Stark bark. Aren't we all so excited? Yes, that is how we just did that. We passed information through our path right here to our controller, waiting patiently, and pass back customized information to us. Note this is very minuscule. This is what redefined the websites, redefined our internet, is being able to customize information to what we're requesting. This changed the world at a very, very minuscule pace. So that is what we just did. We customized a response to our path using that annotation path variable. So awesome. There's no other questions about this. We're going to keep moving on then. Going to keep everybody engaged. Come on, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Kind of, promise. It gets better. It gets better. All right. Let's go ahead and bring in another path. We've already talked about just a simple path there. We talked about one with path variables. Let's talk about something that looks like this. Look at this very, very specifically. You should see this a lot in your current day. Name equals Stark. This right here is called a parameter. You will see this today in web applications across the world. Parameters are a very, very big thing, and you've seen it in Unit 1 as well. So let's talk about when it comes to controllers in Java and Spring, how we're going to actually take that in. Let's bring back that controller that we've been working with here all day. I'll give you that get mapping. We're just going to be using dog. Take a closer look at that. We're just going to be using dog. We don't need to define anything specific like we did with our path variable. We're going to throw response body in there again because we're just going to be returning a string. And now take a close look at this. We're going to bring back the bark function, bark method. But we see that we don't use a path variable anymore. We're using a new annotation. This annotation being request param with string name. It's still going to be the exact same response, name barks, but in this case, we're passing in our information in a different way. We're passing it in through a URL parameter. These URL, you might be asking, why do we pass in things through a path variable? Why do we pass things in through a parameter? Typically, you pass in information traditionally through parameters, not necessarily through path variables. The path variables there are there to define what route you want to go on, such as what profile page maybe you want to go to. To pass in large loads of information, you typically use parameters. So this is more of the traditional way of actually passing in your dog's name. So as you can see, this request param string name. As always, these two have to stay the same. These two have to stay the same. String name correlates with our parameters name. Let's go ahead and see this guy in action as well. We're going to come down here. I'm going to copy this just like we did before to save us a few moments. We're going to take out this and change the name because I can only have ETR bark with name as parameter. Perfect. But I need to update this. What do we need to update it to take in things as a parameter?
Request param.
Very good. Request param. Fantastic. Just like that. And I don't think it imported. Let me go and import that. That's awesome. All right. There we go. Let's go and hop over here. Oh, excuse me. Let's go and stop that. There we go. All right, we're rerunning. Take a deep breath. We're almost there. We're almost to the end. Kind of. I don't even know where my phone's at. What time is it? Yeah, we're well on time. I got 30 more minutes to bore you guys to tears. This is great. All right. Uh-oh. Dog controller method, ambiguous mapping. What? Oh no, because I already have something mapped up here. You're absolutely right. As you can see, I have a get mapping for dog and a get mapping for dog down there. Though we have different signatures, this is still an error. Because if I told my controller, hey, go to the dog route, and I have two identical addresses, if I tell you go to your friend's house, but your friend has two different addresses, you're gonna say, which house do I go to? You are gonna be confused. Same as your controller, it will have no idea where to go. You need to remove that ambiguous route. Just for our benefit, I'm gonna comment it out just in case anybody needs that code while we're looking over here. We're gonna run that again. You have to like learn how to juggle maybe, like that will keep people entertained. Said I can't juggle more than one thing at a time. All right, we are all started. Let's go ahead up over here. We come over here, Stark is still barking. We're gonna come over here and give me another name more energetically, please. What is a good dog name?
Scooby.
Astro.
Regis.
Astro.
So many
Matlock.
good dog names. I'm gonna take Scooby here. Oop, I didn't even do what I wanted to do. We're gonna go ahead and do this as parameters. I apologize. Does anyone know, and we didn't go over it, but off the top of their heads, what symbol starts the parameters? What do we start with?
Question mark.
Very good, yes, air high five. Awesome job. And then we have name and then equals. So the left-hand side is the key.
Eva.
Eva, all right, we'll do Eva.
Really
There
mark.
we go. Name equals Eva, so you have Eva barked.
I
So
was
we're
just cheering
passing
for
the
Eva, not
parameters.
making her dog.
I was
Oh,
barking earlier for real.
I'm
I probably hear my real dog in the background barking in the backyard right now.
So Eva barked. I apologize, Eva.
Are you good, man? It's cool.
Oh my gosh, we'll go to Scooby too, just to double check. As we're passing this in here, we see that whatever we pass in that name parameter will be sent into the controller and pushed back as a response as text. Look at that. There we go. Any questions about that? All right, in that case, we're gonna keep diving a little bit deeper. You guys seem very chill with all this stuff, so we're gonna keep going a little bit harder into the stuff. Let's go ahead and talk about this one. This route right here has two specific things. As I said, we have Stark. We've already seen a string there, but look at this, age 7. We can pass as many parameters as we want in here. Not only that, we can pass different data types. Strings and ints are typically the two big ones. So here we're passing in an int. Let's take a look at what this is going to look like. Bringing in the controller as always, putting our get mapping and our response body there. But now we need to bring in those two parameters. And that's how we're gonna do it. We have our bark here, but for our request parameter, we have our string name and our int age. Again, we can take in those different data types. So we have our name that we're able to pass in and our age, and then we customize that string to it. Let's go ahead and see that in action. I'm gonna just add it to here. So we say at request parameter, say int age, just like that. There we go. So the dog's name barked and is blank years old. That is what we're going to be sending back. We're going to stop this, refresh, and we're going to see what happens next. So again, the biggest note to take along here is that we can pass in two different data types and multiple parameters into our URL strings. Everything's started up here. I'm going to press that. Once I press enter here, take a look at this. you're going to see this error page most likely when we're working with your assignments, exercises, or studios. This is saying that you have a 400, a bad request. This is the line to look at when you get these errors back. What's happening is that it required the request parameter age for method parameter int is not present. What this means is that I passed in Scooby, but I did not pass in age. So what I need to do here is pass in the parameter in order for it to work. So I say ampersand age equals 7. Press enter again, and now everything works. Most likely, you're going to see one of those error pages. When you do, take a breath and take a look at it. What is it saying? Does it say 400 bad request? If it does, why is it a bad request? Just how we tore it down there before. As we can see, once we send over the proper information, we get back the string. Scooby barked and is 7 years old. That is how we can work with multiple parameters within a GET request. All right. Any questions about this? I see one person typing, so I will give it a moment. Then we will have to move on. Is the controller trying to cast the age parameter behind the scenes? For example, what if we typed 7 for age? Let's go and see what happens. We see here that yes, it is trying to cast it in the very back or in the background for us. So it says int, nested exception, the number format exception, input string 7. This is because we asked for an int, but you're providing, or we are providing a string. Hence we will get this error and it will basically blow up in our face. So to answer your question, yes, it is casting in the background. We need to actually provide a true numeric value if we're asking for a numeric value in the method itself. Very, very good question. So one more person typing. All right, let's keep moving. Okie dokie. Let's make sure we got this. Help me out here. Everybody talk to me. We use the what symbol to separate parameters in a URL.
Question mark?
I like the answer, however, it is how we start.
Semicolon. The same
Ampersand.
colon,
Very good.
same
Very
symbol
good.
that represents mental health.
It's not the
Ampersand.
semicolon. It is not the semicolon. It is, I'm sorry.
Ampersand.
Ampersand, very good. It's the ampersand. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yes, it is the ampersand to separate parameters in a URL. Very good. In the example, www.mysite.com/text/here, if here was a variable, it would be called what? What's kind of, it is not a parameter, it is inside of that path. What kind of variable?
Path variable.
It is. I heard it. It's a path variable. Very good, everyone. The blank is the part of the MVC architecture that deals with requests and responses.
Controller.
Controller.
Very good, controller. Absolutely. That is the master of request and response. It is the individual that will be dealing with that back and forth as we move through the rest of these chapters in the units, or in unit 2. All right. There are 8 bits in a byte, but only 4 bits in a what? Anybody know what 4 bits is?
A half
Anybody?
byte.
A nibble.
It is a nibble. It is a nibble. Yes, very good. I love that.
Wow.
Yes, 8 bits in a byte, but 4 bits is a nibble. I always thought that's the funniest nerd thing I ever learned in school. All right, everybody good? Everybody ready for the next thing? All right, let's keep moving forward. We're gonna start making things look a little bit better here. So we're gonna just take this typical path here. As we already know, we have our at controller, that annotation above our dog controller. Awesome, awesome. We have our get mapping dog. We created it for this path that we see above. No surprises here, at response body, and we're gonna do that bark. Now we need to make things look prettier. How do we make things look prettier on a website? What are we gonna use? What kind of language?
CSS.
HTML.
I like CSS. It is going to style the language I'm truly looking for. I think I heard it. HTML, very good though. But you're absolutely right. CSS does pretty up things. It pretties up HTML. So but we're gonna use HTML here just to begin with. And we're gonna just say HTML body, we're gonna make our dog page and then end our body and then HTML. That's it. That's what we want to add because we want to actually put something on our website. So we're going to go back over here, and what we're going to do is that we're going to uncomment out this and comment out this one so we don't have ambiguous map types, and we're going to create some HTML. Here I said HTML, and I said body, and sometimes these can get pretty big. So what you do is you can press plus and then enter, and then start a new string. So I'm going to say h2 my dog page here /h2, and then I do my plus enter, and I forgot what the hotkey was to end, do that a little bit faster. Body HTML. There we go, and save that, stop that, and we're going to restart our server. So what I just did is I just changed our string instead of saying bark to some HTML, and we're going to see what happens there. To answer your question, to identify the stop processing that's listed on port 88, configure the application list to another port. You want to make sure that you stop your existing IntelliJ from running on port 8080. What you want to do is press the red button at the very top, or you can press the red button at the very, very bottom. Press one of those red buttons and it should stop it. All right, here we go. Okay, everyone, let's go ahead and see what happens. We're going to go to that /dog, and we're going to hopefully see some HTML, and there it is. These are more styled here now. We're able to pass back the HTML. When we do pass back the HTML, our browser takes it and actually turns it into a website. There we go. Let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper now. Let's go and do a little bit more HTML in depth here. We're gonna bring back that dog controller. We're gonna bring back our HTML, but inside of here, we're gonna have that title, my dog page. And now we're going to actually include some things inside of it. In this case, I'm going to do the form action add method post. You've seen this before in unit 1. What this is doing is creating a form in HTML. Inside of forms, though, what do we usually put? The answer to that is inputs. Usually put inputs. So there we go. We have the type text name equals name, because we just want to add our dog's name in there. But once we have this input in our form, the most important one to put is then a submit button. So we say submit value equals add. Now, some things to really take close attention to is this action add. This action add. What this is going to do is that it's going to call to a very specific path. We'll talk about this in a little bit. Action add calls to something very specific. Action in general is going to call to something very specific. The next thing to see is this method post. Something we haven't really talked about yet too much in the regards of Spring. Let's go ahead and do that now. Oh, not what I wanted. Oh, I'm missing a thing. Oh, that's right. I wasn't allowed to do this on this one. So what we're going to do is that we see add here. So I don't believe, let me see what time we got. The last class didn't make it through this one too fast. So I didn't think I'd have enough time to do this, but you know what? It's here anyway. Let's go ahead and do it. All right, let's go ahead and add this HTML in there. So what we had here is that we got to add a little extra here. So form, and then we said action equals add. Do single quotes, add, just like that. And then method equals post. Now we're just gonna see this thing in action. We're gonna talk about it too much until next class, but form. There we go. And then what do we put in here? We put in our inputs here. So we say inputs, so type equals text, and then our name equals name. That's, make sure you use single quotes there, those double quotes, otherwise things get messy. And then one more thing. What do we have to put in here in our form? What's the very important input type we have to do?
Submit.
Very good, submit, awesome, awesome, submit. And then we said value equals add. Remember, value is to set the text inside of our submit button. That's what we're trying to do here. Okay. All right, that is our HTML that we just went over. Let's go ahead and stop this, replay, and conjure up some HTML. There we go. We come back over here. We're going to refresh now. And I'm going to add a dog. I'm going to say start for right now and press add. I see that I pressed add and I come here and it says now /add. Take a very close look at that. Once I pressed add, it went to now /add. Not only that, we also get an error page back. That's pretty noticeable. Look at what happened here. It says not found, error 404. If you see a 404, that means that page does not exist. /add does not exist. So what this means is that we need to create something to actually be there. Now, this is what we're going to go over next class, but because we have a little bit of time, I'm just going to go ahead and show you it. Just get it in the back of your memories before Thursday, or wait, what is it? Yeah, before Thursday. Yep. All right.
I think you mean Monday, Kyle.
I mean Monday. Oh,
Monday.
that's what I knew I wasn't going crazy. I was like, next class. Today is Monday. Oh my gosh, today is Monday. All right, yes, I mean Monday. Thank you. Today's been, as I'm sure for everybody, an absolutely insane. All right, so post mapping. We are now sending over a post. How do I know it was a post? Is because look at our form here. We did our action add and our method post. We want to post our information. Remember from unit 1, to send information somewhere to somebody, we typically do posts. We post information to them. That's what we're going to be doing here on our form. Additionally, we say action equals add to tell them, hey, go post this information to this add path. So that's why we're going to put add in here, just like that. I'm going to say at response body, and I think this works with post as well. Public string respond. There we go. And I believe if I say request, oh, I'm going to have to exactly remember which one that is. We're going to do that for a second. There we go. There we go. Save that. Save that, restarts. And we're going to go ahead and see this in action. There we go. Run, run, run. Awesome. Let's go back here, /dog. Fresh just to make sure. And there we go. We press enter and it takes us to /add. We created a post mapping for that and it tells us you're here. We just began the starts of how to create forms in our Spring Boot applications and talked a little bit about posts. Next class, we'll actually learn about how to gather the information from that post request and customize our page to do that. But that way, I won't bother you with that just tonight. I will wait until next Monday to give you all a break. So that is all I have for you all tonight. Any final questions before I let you all go? Go ahead and take a look at that. Oh, trying to think of anything else I need to talk to you about. Any questions at all? How's everybody feeling about MVC? Good, bad? Good, okay.
So Kyle, what are other competing design patterns other than MVC?
Kind of like what you learned in Angular. You can, or kind of what you learned with Angular. With the MVC, trying to think of what a good competitor would be for that. I mean, honestly, I feel bad. My main architecture knowledge is for all UI primarily. Let's go in. Let's take a look.
I guess I could have done the same, but just curious if you knew stuff off the top of your head.
More you learn. Let's see. There we go. There's a whole list of them.
Model view model. There you go.
That's
yeah,
not
I mean, it's an
confusing at all.
architecture. So, I mean, it's an architecture. So architectures are there to fit needs of specific things. So MVC is not going to be the best for everyone. So, I mean, if we're talking about architectures, I use Flux architecture in my applications, which is a completely different kind of architecture just for UI. But what I'm trying to say is that there's so many out there and they just switch the names around. So yeah, there's plenty out there. That's for sure. No, great question. Action domain responder. I'm gonna bookmark this page. I'm gonna take a look at that. Let's see. I would say reach out to your TA if you're still having those issues. If you are still having them by the end of studio, please let me know and we can connect or direct message me with the area that you're having. All right, everyone. Sounds like that's all of the questions. I hope everyone's feeling comfortable with this. This is the start of something big and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Let's stop sharing there. So to clarify, we will not be having lecture on Thursday. I'm realizing I was saying Monday at the beginning of class, Thursday. So I will see everyone back here on Monday. So that being the case, that is all I have for you everyone today. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.